Hello and welcome to today's video. Now I know I promised a lot of content, as for car related things, auto adventures, repairing cars, model motoring and the like, but today's video is of a serious topic and I felt like starting this channel out I needed to get that little bit more of history out of the way that was so important as to describe my journey currently and to let you guys know basically a little bit more about what happened last year. Now, it's almost been a full year since this bushfire happened, which is now called the Black Summer fires here in Australia. And I just wanted to reach out and both give a tribute to all those that sacrificed themselves and everyone that pulled together when, we needed it the most. So today's video, I do apologize in advance, is not lighthearted and fun as the channel isn't, meant to be. But yeah, I hope that you can watch it and you can see what I've been through, what a lot of people have been through, both here on the South Coast where I live and the North Coast. And I just thought that making a video about this was appropriate. It was appropriate because of this time of year again, and coming into this new, summer season always makes you question whether you're going to get burnt out again. What's it going to be like this year? I don't know what the season's going to bring, but I definitely don't want to live through what I've already lived through again. It's scary when it's so hot that you feel like passing out, that, the air is so full of smoke that, it burns your lungs when you breathe in. It blinds you because your eyes start to water, you can't see anything, You're so desperate to protect the things that you, worked for and the people that you love, and just, it's so intense. There's just so much going on all the time because you're worried about what you're going to take, what you're not going to take, your pets, everyone else that you care about. It's just, we live with my grandfather who's 93 now, and we had to evacuate him. There was a lot to consider in a very short amount of time. You don't think about this every day. Thankfully, my dad has foresight. He knew that we were going to come into a difficult time. And so he already worked with Mum to arrange, some sort of emergency plan within about, 2 to 3 weeks out of when we needed it most. Having a good leader is priceless, is what I'm trying to say. So here's my video and here's my tribute, and I'm forever grateful to those that just stuck their necks out for strangers, Today we'll be looking back on some personal history of mine that I'm sure a lot of fellow Australians and definitely Americans can relate to. I'm talking about last year's bushfire season between June 2019 and May 2020. Currently now in America, I know you guys are having a second tough fire season, and I'm honestly still a bit shook up from our last fire season, that seeing you guys suffer honestly makes me feel anxious, as if I'm possibly going to lose everything again. My heart goes out to all the people out there currently going through this and the stress of possibly losing everything or from the agony of great loss. My heart goes out to you all. Here in Australia currently though, it's been almost a full 12 months since last year's apocalyptic bushfire in my area. It was such a bad season that it is now known as the Black Summer. I wanted to share my experience with you because the devastation was part of the reason I've made some different choices in life recently, and to show you the new direction I'm going in as things change and develop for my family and me. As a lot of victims would know, here in the New South Wales North and South Coast, we all had fire raging across our region for a long time, and it felt like forever. We had been watching the majority of the North Coast of New South Wales start to burn up in September 2019, and we definitely became worried late November as the Bega area, which is south of us, rapidly came under similar conditions. What was most concerning for us was the fact that we hadn't had a fire in over 7 years. We knew at that point we had trouble coming our way, but we had no idea of the severity we were about to endure. The whole experience was strung out between late September to late January of fires raging in, near and around us before eventually burning us out twice. I'll never forget how day became night in a matter of minutes. What was a distant smoke plume soon consumed the surrounding sky in just smoke and ash in no time at all. We experienced the worst part of the fires here on the south coast between the end of November 2019 and mid-January 2020. We were personally invaded by flames on both New Year's Eve and the following Saturday, which was January the 4th, 2020. It was just stress non-stop every day that we saw smoke, and that was most of our days during December and January. Sirens became so frequent over that period of time, it was a bit maddening. We were constantly on edge. We were also alert day and night because the fires were burning around us for so long that we had various vehicles, including our van, packed and unpacked around 3 to 4 separate occasions because we didn't know when or from what direction we were going to get hit from. My family and myself ended up having to evacuate and fight the fires off twice on New Year's Eve and the 4th of January, as previously mentioned. The firefighters were working so hard. I feel for every single one of them who were pulling double and sometimes triple shifts just to try and cover the ever-expanding fire front. Their self-sacrifice was unfathomable. I can't thank them enough for their tireless effort to protect all of us and the surrounding communities that were affected. It was a mammoth effort from both above and below, and the weather was truly extreme with the hot drought conditions with days breaking temperature records and strong winds that just made the flames travel faster and stronger. These conditions didn't let up or ease off to allow much, if any, progress for the majority of December and January. There was just so much natural fuel on the ground with so little ground moisture that it's no wonder everything went up with such intense combustion. At this time, my dad had a dear family friend from England come out and visit us who we had not seen for almost 20 years. The fact that everything had turned so ugly in our country after waiting to see her for so long was devastating. It was truly heartbreaking that the effort she had taken to come see us and have a well-earned holiday was dashed for her because of these long drawn-out stressful events. I thank Janet also for fighting the fires beside us and helping us not to lose all that we had. Her courage and selfless effort was truly extraordinary. We love you and we wish we could have spent more time with you in better conditions. At this time, I also had my friend Royce over for Christmas and New Year's. He and I were the only ones home on New Year's since my parents and Jan were in Sydney that day. If Royce wasn't there with me that day, I don't know how I would have managed without another person being there to help me. He was in the volunteer rural firefighter service previously before this disaster happened and already knew what he had to do in this time of crisis. He helped me with the last minute packing and hauling us out as, things started to burn around us. He was fighting most of the fires off our property and away from all of the buildings we had on our property, as well as the cars that we had at the time. I was trying to deal with the rest of the chaos of the animals and the few family possessions we saved. Honestly, so thankful Royce was there with me. He was an absolute lifesaver. Royce and I were home alone for some time because Dad was still in Sydney the day everything was burning. As soon as he had heard from me that, we were in such trouble, he was rushing home from Sydney to come help and see the damage, but he was stopped by a roadblock that the police had set up about half an hour away from our residence. This was extremely stressful for everyone because Dad had no idea how Royce and I were getting on since cellular reliability was at an all-time low as towers were being fire damaged, and so the cell signal would be in and out so much that the phones were basically useless at this point. So we also had no power for a substantial amount of days. Water flow was also unreliable since resources were being pulled to fight the remaining fire in the area. It didn't help that the main water pipe to our house was burned through in various places either, but we were alright thanks to the newly installed water tank, thanks to Dad's foresight. The roadblock was not reopened until a good 2 days later, and so Dad and Jan were stuck living and sleeping in the car for that period of time. The conditions for both of them were horrendous since the Land Rover interior was not very comfortable, and the hot, smoky air was almost unbreathable and it was just suffocating them. There was no time for celebrating on New Year's that night since it was a mad dash for me and Royce to the water refilling point and back to extinguish every glowing ember we could find, both on our property and along the highway with my dad's water cut, which he specifically bought only a couple of weeks previously for this emergency. I've always been so thankful for my dad's prudent foresight and always playing it safe for his family. It has always paid off at the most critical times throughout my life. The fire cart and the effort between the firefighters and us was one of the reasons we didn't lose so much more. so thankful everyone pulled together like we did, and we made it out quite decently, especially in our area. The Lake Conjola area, Mogo, Bateman's Bay, they were all burnt out so savagely. It was just unbelievable. We got hit pretty hard, but they got hit so much harder. It was just tragic. I want to thank some specific people within the firefighting force that came and helped us specifically. I'd really like to thank Cody Schutz, who went above and beyond the call of duty to save our shed particularly, and worked overtime to make sure nothing else burned on our property. I want to thank Riley Hendry, who was running around in this area trying to help out everybody. And I definitely want to give a big thank you to Owen Brown, who was with Cody Schutz at the time, who was also just working double time to make sure everything was okay and that we were okay, because we were still on the property on that day. Now to the heroes that gave so much to our country. I want to recognize the people that fought for us all. So here is my tribute to all the men and women that were out there on the front lines. Thanks to all the firefighters, both domestic and international volunteers, that didn't quit until the fight was over. I have searched the internet, I've done a lot of research, and I do apologize if I have missed a single name. I don't for a second take somebody's loss of life lightly. I have accumulated both all the firefighters' names that I could find, and I will be honouring those that lost their lives outside of the firefighting force as well. I want to give this video and tribute the most respect possible. Let us take a moment of silence as we consider all the families that will also miss these wonderful people that were tragically taken last year. I know this year, on Christmas, me and my family will definitely be considering the loss and thinking about all those families that tragically lost those that they loved, and our hearts go out to you. Rest in peace, heroes. Thank you for your service.